Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I just finished watching the ABC Live interview with Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, and Michael Strahan. So, Prince Harry is going around promoting his new book, Spare, and he has given us an insider view of what it means to grow up as a royal in England. And not everything that glitters is gold. So, basically he takes us from growing up as a child, and he says that he named his book Spare because for centuries, this is something new that I learned, that there was an heir to the throne, which is his older brother William, and him being the younger was dubbed the Spare. And throughout British royalty, the spare means that they can be called upon for anything that the heir needs. Even he says like parts of his body, like bone marrow. And I mean, I was flabbergasted because I could only imagine what that does to one's psyche, especially as a child growing up. Your own self-worth and dignity, right? Especially seeing, what happened with his mother when she passed. He was only 12 years old. William was 15. And I remember briefly, because, I'm not in the UK, I'm not in England, I'm an American, but I remember watching it on the news as a child myself and seeing them like have to walk behind their mom's casket. And I was just really sad for them. Like they always look sad. And Harry says, in this interview that, he didn't cry, that he was shaking hands with the people of Britain. And I thought, what a huge responsibility and an unfair burden to place on a grieving child who just lost their mother. And him and his mom were really close. Like Princess Di, she even said that because, Harry was named the Spare, that she knew he wasn't going to receive a lot of love. And so she intentionally went out of her way while she was here on earth to shower him with as much love and affection as she could as a mother. And so he goes on to say that, the paparazzi and the British media, they're basically in cahoots with the royal family. And because the British taxpayers, pay for their lifestyle, that they feel like they have a say so in how they live their lives. And he went on to say, how the British media were very intrusive. They would write, really horrific things about his family, his girlfriends growing up, and now Meghan, his wife. And he said that, he chalked a lot of it up to unconscious bias. And I feel like he was really trying to be still protective of his family. Like, he said his stepmother, Camilla, he felt a great deal of compassion for her. She was the third wheel in the marriage between his father, who is now, King Charles, and Princess Di, back when she was still alive. And, he said that he really wished that she would find happiness and that she would be a lot less dangerous if she were happy. And I thought that was a very powerful and insightful statement on his behalf. So he again talks about how his brother and he were, pitted against each other, that they were, adversaries, that William basically said that, when they went to boarding school, that, he really didn't want him to acknowledge his presence, and that he wanted to be completely separate from him, which hurt Harry, deeply. He says here in this quote, my wife and I believe that where you're born should not dictate your ability to survive. And I feel like, of course, he was addressing the audience at that time, but he was also talking about himself, because surviving such a toxic, dysfunctional upbringing would be hard for anyone. You know, Harry has been very open about his own mental health issues and spending time in therapy. And I really commend him for setting the record straight. He said the reason why he chose this time right now to speak out was for 38 years, other people have written about his life, but he says that now he wants to take control of his own story and his own narrative. And I commend him for that. So with Spare, I'm going to make a separate video and I'm going to include snippets from the book because it's really, really juicy. It's a really good book. One thing that Harry touches on, he goes into depth about with Michael Strahan, is that, you know, the situation with the bridesmaids dresses with, you know, Kate, his sister-in-law, and how Meghan, his wife, was just really vilified. And he said that the royal family really missed an opportunity in that situation, which people were saying that, you know, Meghan made Kate cry, which wasn't true. Actually, come to find out, it was the opposite. But he says that, you know, because the British royal family are the heads of state to so many countries around the world and, you know, UK Commonwealth. I mean, there's so many countries. There's, you know, Canada and Antigua, and I know Barbados, they just got their independence from the UK, and Jamaica said that they wanted to gain their independence as well. So a lot of countries actually might fall away from being under the Commonwealth of England. But he said that, you know, there's other countries like, for instance, here, the king of, you know, Norway and the king of the Netherlands specifically targeted the fact that their countries practiced racism for a very long time, and they acknowledged it and they apologized for it. And he said that, you know, if these other countries can do that, why can't my, you know, my family in England do that as well? And he said that, you know, the British royal family really, really, truly missed an opportunity to embrace Meghan, and the fact that representation is so important, something that he didn't realize as a privileged white male prince growing up, right? So he was in a bubble, he was sheltered. And again, I really commend Harry for speaking out and saying, you know, this is something that was a blind spot, and we're all, you know, growing and evolving and learning. And so the fact that here we have, you know, King Harold condemns racism towards future son-in-law Derek Barrett, I commend them for that. You know, life is evolution and it's a journey. And so with him speaking out against the racism that his wife suffered, that his children suffered, right? I think that there is, of course, growth and healing. And I really look forward to hearing more and seeing the work that this couple is going to do. But I'm really grateful that, you know, he not only wrote the book, but that he's being so candid in the interviews. You know, he said that his heart actually goes out to his father and his brother, who he feels like hold some jealousy against him because he has an opportunity to live a life of freedom and autonomy that they will never have, that they are actually, you know, tied to that throne of England. And I can agree with him. I would never want to be in a situation where I felt like, you know, I had to be a public servant or I had to perform a certain way for a group of people, because then your life is not your own. You know what I mean? Like, he basically described a gilded cage, and even if it's a golden cage in a palace, it's still a cage. And life is meant to be lived freely. And I feel like he has that in California with his wife and his two children. So I will make a separate video, like I said, about the book, but I really enjoyed this this interview with Michael Strahan, and I really hope that Harry and Meghan, they receive all the love and healing that they need to go forward. So please like, share, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I will talk with you later. Take care. Bye.